One of the best features on a PlayStation 3 is its ability to play PlayStation 1 discs. It's so awesome being able to take your original collection for the PlayStation, stick them in your PS3 and play them on your modern TV. Now, since the PS1 came out, some of the physical games have started to become a little bit more pricey. But don't worry, because you can pick up digital versions of these games on the PlayStation 3. Or can you? Because PlayStation have started to sunset the PlayStation 3 store. As of the end of October, they'll no longer be taking credit card payments on the store and will only be accepting credit that already exists on your PlayStation. So if you put stuff on your PlayStation 4, you can bring it over to your PS3, or if you buy prepaid cards. And this is exactly what Nintendo did with all of its console stores as it was sunsetting and closing them down. Added to that, the number of PlayStation 1 games that are actually still on the store are starting to fall. On the European store, we had 166 PlayStation 1 games. 28 of those games have already been taken off the store, and more are likely to follow. Games like Ridge Racer 4, Kelowna, Tomba, Ark the Lad, they're all gone. You can't pick them up on the PlayStation anymore. And so in today's show, we're going to be looking at 10 PlayStation 1 games that you need to pick up on your PlayStation 3. My name's Mike, and this is the Retro Gamer Boy Show. Welcome back to the Retro Gamer Boy Show. Hit that thumbs up if you want to vanquish your enemies, and if you're new to the channel and you like what you see, why not consider subscribing? You can do that by clicking on a little button just below this video. So what we're going to look at next are 10 games that I think you should pick up for the PlayStation 3. They're relatively cheap, about $3.99 a game. There's one outliner which is I think $8.99, but for a PlayStation 1 classic game, and all of these are classic games, it's definitely worth your money. And the first game I suggest you look at picking up is Front Mission 3. Now, I absolutely love Front Mission 3, one of my all-time favourite PlayStation 1 games. I was over the moon when they brought it to the PlayStation 3. I've got it on the PlayStation 1, but it's just so much more convenient to play it on my PlayStation 3, and it also means that I don't have to keep on taking the disc in and out and risk damaging that precious PlayStation 1 disc. It's a turn-based tactical RPG set kind of in the near future where they've got mechs roaming around the countryside blowing up all manner of things. It's got an awesome storyline to it where you're playing a young rebel fending off evil government forces, and in between the action, the robot action, you also get to hack around with the internet. It's got some stunning visuals, great cutscenes and brilliant audio. It's an absolute must if you're a PlayStation 1 fan or just a tactics RPG fan. Vagrant Story, an absolute classic where the physical copy is going through the roof, but the digital copy will cost you the pennies in your pocket. You follow Ashley Wright, who's a risk breaker. He's an agent who's following a cult that's cropped up. Now, this is a 3D RPG, very much like Final Fantasy XII. You control your character from the third person, and if I remember correctly, you can also do some first person looking around as well. Now, whilst visually Vagrant Story is in a similar round to Final Fantasy XII, where you're running around a 3D environment, engaging with battles, the actual battles themselves differ greatly. In fact, its combat system is one of the most unique parts about this game. Remember Fallout 3 and its VAT system, where it paused time and allowed you to choose body parts? Well, that's exactly what Vagrant Story does. And back in the day, this was mind-blowing. Now, Parasite Eve also had this system, but Vagrant Story improves on this greatly. It's an awesome combat mechanic, and just like in Fallout 3, it makes for great gameplay. It goes without saying, again, it's another game that shows off the prowess of the PlayStation 1. Great visuals, awesome audio, beautiful cutscenes, and brilliant gameplay. you afraid of the dark? Well, I'll let you into a little secret. Whenever I play any kind of horror game or watch any kind of horror film, I'm the first one to jump. I've even had a jump scare watching Star Trek: The Next Generation. And playing this next game on PlayStation 1 was no different. Alone in the Dark: The New Nightmare is a survival horror game, which at the time was spectacular. It was so good, in fact, that it was also ported to the PlayStation 2. You get the opportunity to play the story arc of 2 characters, and this game boasts some of the best visual in the survival horror game genre. It plays around with lighting and audio in a way that Resident Evil never did on the PS1, and it really has a lot of those jump scares in it. Like with all these games, it has stunning graphics, great audio, and some brilliant gameplay in it, and is definitely worth picking up on your PlayStation 3. Parasite Eve 2. Now this very much is in the same vein as Resident Evil. Monsters, pre-rendered backgrounds, and awesome character control. Except this time we've got psychic powers to play around with as well. Back in the day when I picked this up, it really was a hidden gem. Hardly anyone knew about it. It wasn't a massive hit over here in the UK, but still it was one of the best games that I had played at the time, and still holds up today. It follows and borrows heavily from the Resident Evil series, and it doesn't suffer for it. It builds on the successful formula of those classic Capcom horror titles and adds unique twists with its psychic abilities. And if you're anything like me, you're definitely going to have 1 or 2 scare jumps in there. Now, like most of the other games we've spoken about, this next game also sits in my physical PlayStation 1 collection, but having it on my PlayStation 3 is just so much more convenient to play. And this is another survival horror, see the pattern here, another survival horror that is just out of this world, and it's Silent Hill. Now, Silent Hill absolutely destroyed me emotionally playing this game. The visuals in this game, unlike Resident Evil, it's full 3D, not pre-rendered backgrounds in there. And they do some very, very clever graphical tricks where they change the environment they're in. You'll be walking down a ghostly, empty street with fog filling it. You'll hear these air raid sirens go off, and then suddenly everything's covered in chains and blood. It absolutely scared the bejesus out of me. I sat there as a kid, shaking in the corner. I say kid, I think I was 20 something when I played it, but it had me petrified constantly. I loved it, and went on to play most of the other Silent Hills and watch the film as well. If you've never played the original Silent Hill, it's definitely worth picking up, and you don't have to go to all that trouble to buy the disc. Just download it on your PlayStation 3 now before it's no longer available.
What is this? What's going on here?
Now, our next game is a platformer, and a bit of a quirky platformer that, at the time, again, it was a kind of hidden gem. Not many of my friends had even heard of it, let alone played the game. It was side-scrolling, but still, it had a full 3D environment, and that was Pandemonium. Now, I don't know what it is about Pandemonium that drew me to it and kept me playing it. It was one of my all-time favourite platform games on the PlayStation 1. Its well-designed, fast-paced levels allowed you to zip through seamlessly, making you feel like a gaming god. It had an interesting storyline, the cutscenes were beautifully rendered, and the environments that it presented were awesome. It had a great soundtrack, and like I said, I don't know what one thing attracts me to the game, why I like it so much. Maybe it's nostalgia, but at the time I couldn't get enough of this game and was surprised that no one had heard of it.
Pretty nasty, huh, Vargas? What should we name that one?
Shatner's toupee? What do you think, Sid? Let's see another one, Nikki.
Oh, heck, why not?
Next up, we have two games. They're part of a series, and they're two games that I have a huge amount of nostalgia for, are brilliant games, and they are also two of my biggest regrets. They're my biggest regrets because I actually sold them, and to pick them up now will cost you hundreds. And that's Suikoden 1 and Suikoden 2, or Suikoden 1 and 2. I absolutely loved these two games. I love my RPGs, and these two were just stunning. The mechanics they had in it, they didn't just have the standard random encounter mechanics that you have in most JRPGs, they also had battles and duels that you'd take part in as you traverse the world. It had a ton of unique mechanics, and one of the things I absolutely loved was meeting different characters in the world and then adding them to your roster of characters. Now I think there was only like 5 or 6 main characters that you took out with you, but you had this ever-growing army of characters that you were building, each with their own unique personalities, background stories and visuals. They weren't just mere NPCs, they were part of the world that you were building. Now, like with all the games that I've mentioned in the show so far, there are other ways to play these games. Some of them came out on PSP, some on Vita, and I think some may even be out on the PlayStation 4. But you can pick this up now for your PlayStation 3. At $3.99 for each copy, it's absolutely a bargain. Considering how much they go for in the hundreds physically, the only way that some people are going to get to play this is that they get that on their PlayStation 3 before all of this goes away. Now lastly, we have an absolute gem of a game, and a game that I've only recently played, and I only played it because I could download it and buy it on the PlayStation 3. And that's Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Now it is, in Europe at least, one of the most expensive PlayStation 1 games that you can buy for your PS3. At $8.99, it's almost double the price of all the other games. But even at $8.99, that's still super cheap, especially considering this game goes for hundreds in its physical form, and I get to enjoy it now on the PlayStation 3. I wish I'd picked this game back up in the day, but having it on the PlayStation 3 now means that I can still experience the awesomeness of this game. It's one of the fastest paced Castlevania games that I've played. All the different skills that you pick up are just stunning. The enemies that you go up against are amazingly drawn. And again, like all the Castlevanias, it's got a great storyline to go with it. The game is a side-scrolling platform with pseudo 3D graphics. We've got pixel art enemies and character, and then we have 3D environments with parallax 2D going on in the background and foreground as well. It is, without doubt, one of the most beautiful looking games that you can get on your PlayStation 1, and it has one of the greatest soundtracks that I've ever heard for a Castlevania game. PlayStation 1 was such an iconic console for me, and being able to pick up some of these games that I'd probably never be able to buy physically, and have them on my PlayStation 3 and to hand to play whenever I like, is an absolute joy, and I wouldn't want to miss out on it, and I don't want any of you to miss out on it as well. So if you're a PlayStation 1 fan, or you're just getting into PlayStation 1, the PlayStation 3's catalogue of PS1 games is definitely worth checking out. Now, if you've enjoyed this series, you love retro gaming, you love your Sega Mega Drive or Genesis, then why not consider subscribing to the channel? Like we said at the beginning, you can do this by clicking on a little button just below the video. We make brand new retro gaming videos every single Monday, and so you don't miss out, you can also click on another little bell which is just below this video as well. We have a huge back catalogue of retro gaming videos that you can check out, and 2 of those can be found over here.